Hello YouTube. It's time to go back to ancient India. The Sanskrit word vimana first appeared in Vedas with several meanings ranging from temple or palace to mythological flying machine. The word vimana originates from the Sanskrit word vimana. V meaning bird and mana meaning like. The interpretation will be like bird. Owing to similarity with birds, it is named vimana, but it really means much more. References to these flying machines were common in ancient Indian texts, even describing their use in warfare and being able to fly within the Earth's atmosphere. Vimanas were also said to be able to travel in space and underwater. The sun, the Indra, and the several other Vedic deities were transported by flying wheeled chariots pulled by animals, usually horses, but others like Agnihotra Vimana, Agni means fire, with two engines, and the Gaya Vimana, elephant-powered, were known. Rigveda also talks about mechanical birds. Later texts around 500 before Common Era talk of self-moving aerial car without animals. In some modern Indian languages, the word vimana means aircraft. The ancient Indian scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam refers to Vedic texts that were first recorded about 5,000 years ago and before that. For unknown hundreds or even thousands of years were transmitted orally. It is believed that Srimad Bhagavatam was created by sage Vyasa, the same one who wrote the famous epic Mahabharata. This text tells about a king named Salva, who liked God Shiva with his virtues and prayers, and he gave the king an air vehicle, a vimana, for this. Vimana had its own name, Saubha, and was so large and majestic that it was directly called the Flying Iron City. The great Lord Umapati, Shiva, at the end of the year, satisfied Salva, who turned to him for shelter, offering him a choice for blessings. Salva chose a vehicle that neither demigods, nor demons, nor humans, nor Gandharvas, nor Rakshasas could destroy, which could travel anywhere, wherever he wished, and which would terrify the Vrishni, ancient Vedic family. Lord Shiva said, so be it. By his order, Maya Danava, who conquered the cities of his enemies, built a flying iron city named Saubha and presented it to Salva. Maya Danava was one of the sons of the primeval goddess of water, Danu. The Danavas, along with the Daitya giants, children of the goddess Deity, are classified as asuras or titans in Hindu mythology. The term asura means mighty and may be related to the term Asir from Scandinavian legends, where it means Lord or even God. But that's a research somebody else will undertake. Asuras are powerful beings with magical abilities, and although they are generous and pious by nature, they are also prone to displays of pride, anger, jealousy, lust, greed, and other egotistic tendencies, which leads them to frequent confrontations with the gods. Maya was one of the leaders of the Asuras and was famous for his architectural and astronomical abilities. Based on his unusual name, it is assumed by some researchers that he could have had some connection with the Maya civilization in Mesoamerica, but nothing specific is mentioned in Indian texts on this score. However, given that the Maya were also experienced builders and astronomers, it would not be far-fetched to think that the Maya Asura played a role in the evolution of their civilization. After Salva acquired Vimana, he immediately attacked Dwaraka, a golden fortified city built by Krishna on the west coast of India. Salva considered Krishna his enemy because Krishna had killed many of his powerful allies. His impregnable vehicle was filled with darkness and could go anywhere. After receiving it, Salva went to Dwaraka. Salva laid siege to the city with a large army and the best of the Bharatas, destroying the surrounding parks and gardens, mansions along with their observatories, high gates and surrounding walls, as well as public recreation areas. From his superb airship, he unleashed a torrent of weapons on the ground, including rocks, tree trunks, lightning, snakes, and hail. A fierce whirlwind arose and enveloped all sides with dust. Thus the city of Krishna, terribly exhausted by the Saubha airship, was restless, just like the earth when it was attacked by 3 aerial demon cities. One moment the magic airship built by Maya Danava appeared in many identical forms, and the next moment it was just one again. Sometimes it was visible and sometimes it was not. Thus, Salva's opponents could never be sure where he was. Alternatively, Saubha appeared on the ground, in the sky, on a mountain peak, or in the water. Like a spinning, flaming club, it never stayed in one place for long. Wherever Salva appeared with his Saubha ship and his army, there the Yadu commanders, the defenders of Dwaraka, shot their arrows, while Yadu and the followers of Salva continued to attack each other in this way. A stormy, terrifying battle lasted for 27 days and nights. Well, in that passage we find a number of striking correlations between these descriptions of Salva's aircraft and the known characteristics of UFOs. First, the Vimana acquired by Salva was described as a flying city of iron that can go anywhere. UFOs are mostly described as metallic objects with a shiny surface. That is, they're made of some kind of metal, possibly with a high iron content. Secondly, Salva's Vimana sometimes appeared as a single object and sometimes in many identical forms. This often happens in the case of UFO sightings. Several bright UFOs can come together and create the appearance of a single object, and then suddenly split into many bright objects that fly in different directions. Look at my video about the 1953 sinister event in Siberia. Thirdly, Salva's Vimana was sometimes visible and sometimes not. UFO witnesses often mention that these objects can suddenly become invisible. UFOs can also accelerate at extremely high speeds, intolerable for humans, I would say, and vanish almost instantly. In both the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata Purana, we get an account that it was a very big machine, almost like a big city, and it could fly so high and at such a great speed that it was almost impossible to see, so there was no question of attacking it. It appeared to be almost covered in darkness, yet the pilot could fly it anywhere and everywhere. The aircraft occupied by Salva was very mysterious. It was so extraordinary that sometimes many aircraft would appear to be in the sky, and sometimes there were apparently none. Sometimes the aircraft was visible and sometimes not visible, and the warriors of the Yadu dynasty were puzzled about the whereabouts of the peculiar aircraft. Sometimes they would see the aircraft on the ground, sometimes flying in the sky, sometimes resting on the peak of a hill, and sometimes floating on the water. The wonderful aircraft flew in the sky like a whirling firebrand. It was not steady even for a moment. Finally, it is mentioned that Salva's Vimana constantly flies from one place to another, never remaining motionless in any place. This is consistent with the extreme maneuverability of UFOs. Many observations mention that UFOs can change their direction abruptly and quickly, which in turn makes it very difficult to track them. I can vouch, after decades of research of Soviet and Russian UFO research, that there have been a number of cases like this. These correlations make it obvious that the vimana described in the text of Srimad Bhagavatam is what we know today as a UFO. Of course, for the ancients, it was not an unidentified flying object. They knew very well who built it and how King Salva got his hands on that ship. However, they had no idea how these machines were built because, as the text says, they were not built by humans but by Maya, the leader of the Asuras. People did not take part in their construction. That's what some believe, and I will leave it at that for now. But now let's go back to the original text again to find out how the air attack on Dwaraka ended finally. The reason why Salva's attack on Dwaraka lasted for 27 days is that Krishna himself at that moment went to Indraprastha, near modern Delhi, to attend the royal sacrifice. After he returned to Dwaraka, the battle ended pretty quickly. After Krishna arrived in Dwaraka and saw his people threatened with annihilation, and also saw Salva and his airship Saubha, Krishna organized the defense of the city and then turned to Daruka, Krishna's charioteer, with the following words: "O driver, quickly take my chariot to Salva. This Saubhi lord is a powerful magician. Don't let him confuse you." Having received such an order, Daruka took command of the chariot of the Lord and went to Salva. Krishna then pierced Salva with 16 arrows and struck his Saubha airship as it swept across the sky. Now here, there's a very interesting reference to what you could call, what we assume are psi weapons, to confuse the enemy, and as well as missiles, which are called arrows. You can interpret any way you can, but I've done some other videos, for example, about Lake Baikal and the ancient India connection and the other wars that were described in Mahabharata, and wonderful weapons inexplicable to us in many ways. Anyway, Saubha's airship smashed into thousands of pieces by Krishna's club, crashed into the water. Salva left it, stood on the ground, took his club, and rushed toward Krishna using his disc weapon. Then Krishna removed the earrings and crown from that great magician's head, just as Purandara Indra used his lightning bolt to cut off Vritra's head. Very interesting. What was the earpiece that was removed and other new high-tech equipment? Anyway, thus the magical Vimana Saubha, created by Maya Asura and presented by Shiva to Salva, was eventually destroyed by Krishna with his club. This suggests that even modern UFOs are prone to crash and can be shot down by suitable weapons. Let's remember it. Another important insight that can be inferred by some researchers from this story is that ancient UFOs were built not by some prehistoric advanced civilization of humans, but by the Asuras or Titans, a race of powerful semi-divine beings with magical abilities. If you are wondering where, according to the Vedic texts, the Asuras lived, then it was on our planet only underground, in an underground world called Patala. Although this is rather just a general designation, because the word Patala in Sanskrit means what is under your feet, well, in Indian religions, Patala denotes the subterranean realms of the universe, which are located under the earthly dimension. Patala is often translated as underworld or netherworld. Patala is described as more beautiful than Svarga, subtle dimensions, loosely translated as heaven. Patala is described as filled with splendid jewels, beautiful groves, and lakes. According to ancient Indian texts, there are 7 kingdoms in Patala, which are occupied by asuras along with other supernatural beings, such as nagas, human and snake hybrids, rakshasas, giants, yakshas, dwarfs, etc. In the Bhagavata Purana, these 7 worlds are described as 7 underground paradises, Bila Svarga, which filled with beautiful houses, groves, lakes, beautiful girls, magnificent jewels, and unlimited wealth. Life there is a continuous pleasure and sensual pleasures. There is no old age, decay, and disease and patala. Basically, what the Silicon Valley tycoons are trying to create for themselves. Despite the fact that there is no sunlight in these regions, the radiance of the sparkling jewels with which the inhabitants of Patala adorn themselves illuminates the entire region. It is precisely because of the lack of sunlight in Patala that there is no concept of time, the inhabitants of which enjoy an incredibly long life, free from anxiety or fear. Patala sounds like the perfect place to live, except it's not easy to get there. The entrances to this paradise of the underworld are camouflaged and heavily guarded. Again, reminds me of the Silicon Valley and their private homes. In Tibetan Buddhism, Patala can be reached through special Asura caves in the sacred landscape, which are carefully guarded by Dakinis, Buddhist analogues of fairies. Once in Patala, a yogi could gain such benefits as longevity, magical knowledge, fabulous material treasures, and not at least extraordinary pleasures, especially erotic ones, according to the researcher Robert Mayer from the University of Oxford. So we're talking about a hidden underground dimension with huge wealth and pleasures, the entrances to which are guarded by invisible fairies. It is not surprising that over time this material has moved into the realm of fantasy and legend. Well, in the 21st century, we can definitely find attributes to this. Now, remember this. I want you to pay attention to this. India is known to have given to the world most major concepts of mathematics, some as far back as 1200 before Common Era. Aryabhata, Brahmagupta, and Bhaskara were famous mathematicians of the period 400 to 1200 Common Era. The concept of zero, the decimal system, negative numbers, arithmetic, and algebra were Indian contributions. Trigonometric functions, sine and cosine, were added by the ancient Indians. Even practical mathematics, covering measures of length, proportions, ratios, weights, geometric shapes, were also evolved. Large numbers from 100 to a trillion were in use in Vedic period. For construction those days, Pythagorean theorem and geometric area equivalents were used. India is estimated to have about 30 million manuscripts dating back to 700 before Common Era. The knowledge of mathematics was germane to scientific research. You can imagine what knowledge they possessed in the ancient times. You can call it antiquity, but even earlier than that. Now I want to tell you something interesting. G.R. Jossier, former director of the International Academy of Sanskrit Research in Mysore, claimed that the Academy had collected manuscripts that were compiled by ancient rishis thousands of years ago. One manuscript dealt with aeronautics, construction of various types of aircraft for civil aviation and for warfare, designs and drawing of a helicopter-type cargo plane, specially meant for carrying combustibles and ammunition, and a double and treble-decked passenger aircraft carrying 400 to 500 persons were reportedly recorded. Here I will refer to the recollections of Polish attorney Andrzej Kotowiecki, a lawyer by education who studied at the Jagiellonian University in Krakow, a prosecutor by profession, and a passionate historian, archaeologist, geologist, paleontologist, and world traveler. He visited Professor Josier's family in India in 2018, the city of Mesoamerica, located in the south side of the huge subcontinent. The reason was to find and visit the residence of Professor G.R. Josier, the man thanks to whom the work under the title Vymaanika-Shaastra, or Science of Aeronautics, Maharishi Bharadwaja, author, was translated from Sanskrit into Hindu and English. His book, again, Vymaanika-Shaastra, Aeronautics, Academy of Sanskrit Research, Mysore, India, was published in the fall of 1973. In a small edition by the team led by the director of the Academy of Sanskrit Research in Mysore, Professor G.R. Josier. Professor was born in 1891 and died in 1983. Mr. G.R. Josier translated not only Vymaanika-Shaastra, but many Sanskrit texts. According to Andrzej Kotowiecki, the book contains a huge number of information on spaceflight in ancient India. It even describes 3 distant worlds from where the gods came and where they departed. Even the names of these planets are given: Mahaloka, Brahmaloka, and Svetadvipa. For the first time in 1943, the Royal Sanskrit Library in Mysore published the manuscript of Vymaanika-Shaastra. It all started when the Mysore Library was handed over packages of manuscripts tied with string, extracted from the cellars of various decaying temples, devastated by the touch of time. Among the numerous manuscripts, there was the work described above, individual chapters of which there are 10. They deal with unbelievable issues such as pilot training, airways or air corridors, aircraft parts, pilot and passenger clothing, food preparation for long flights, the production of special metals, and glass for the production of spacecraft. In addition, the technical matters of the production of mirrors and the construction of drives are described. 4 basic types of vehicles are mentioned in the paper: Shakuna Vimana, Sundra Vimana, Rurcla Vimana, Tripura Vimana, and they have 113 different subtypes. For example, these writings give 32 tips on how to climb into the air, including flight secrets such as the snake flying, zigzag flying, and jumping. It also describes how to prevent enemy attacks, how to become invisible, or how to eavesdrop on enemy spacecraft conversations. Also given are 5 atmospheric regions with a total of 519,800 air transfer routes for Vimana vehicles to the 7 worlds known Surarlok, Maholok, Jamaloka, Tapoloka, and Satyaloka. Where these paths between interpenetrating universes, who knows? Or maybe shortcuts. The product of many elements is a very precisely described. For example, an energy storing mirror consists of 5 parts of mercury, 6 parts of mica, 8 parts of abraded pearls, 10 parts of granite salt, 8 parts of salt. The energy collecting mirror was designed to absorb and neutralize it. It was the energy of wind, sunlight, and fire. Each of these described energies has devilish effects on the pilot of the plane, and this was counteracted by a mirror prepared in appropriate proportions and melted at the appropriate temperatures. The Vimana vehicles had 7 different types of energy with which they were moved, and a large number of subtypes of energy are listed. Vehicle parts were built, among others, from 103 types of crystals belonging to 12 classes divided into 32 groups of crystals. It is emphasized all the time in ancient writings that for production you also need cold-proof glass, literally cold proof glass. I urge you to look at my videos about ancient China and the Yellow Emperor and the strange mirrors of that civilization. I believe you will see patterns beyond the scope of this video. But the more I research, the more I'm convinced of the existence in the midst of time, I would say more than 15,000 years ago, of an ancient advanced civilization and the incredible high tech it possessed. As to whether the civilizations had vanished completely, well, remember my other videos about the Society of Nine Unknowns. Maybe we will start understanding that those strange objects our militaries cannot catch up to are not aliens from other planets, but remnants of the advanced civilizations. And by no means do I negate the theory of alien visitation on our planet. I think the reality is much more complicated. Of course, that what's being told to us and what is being depicted, and we only see what we are designed to see, so to say. And there's much more that some people on this planet are quite familiar with, but this knowledge has yet to be spread, if ever it will be, among the general population. But today I wanted to speak again about ancient India, and I think I did achieve what I set out to do. If you can support my research, please do it through the links you will find in the description to this video. Please tell others about my channel. The more we know about the earth around us and its true history, the better it will be for us. And please like my videos. Thank you.